started? Um,
It
you can.
started.
It started.
I'll check.
Great.
Yeah.
So, welcome everyone. Like every week, it's we are doing this weekly community meeting where we present what we've worked on and also give you the opportunity to talk to us and ask us questions or give feedback. We're gonna wait a few minutes for everyone to have the opportunity to join, but we're gonna start very soon. I think as a tidbit, not super interesting, but this week we have the everyone in the office in Paris. It was pretty nice. We're a larger team than we've ever been, and so we're actually doing features faster than ever, and the product is changing a lot. It's not necessarily very visible in every way, but really the product base is actually very important. So I'll start myself. So I worked a lot on bugs this week. There's one that were actually pretty difficult to find, and also that happen very rarely, so they're not easy to track. One of them was about at really high with high throughput. You could end up with having workers being in a deadlock situation. The reason why is because the way the workers execute jobs and the way they actually send them back and process them for them to be stored on the database work in a pipeline fashion, meaning that instead of doing everything as a sequence, a worker, as soon as it has completed his job, doesn't wait for it to be stored on the database to pick up another job, because it delegates to another background thread to do the database storing. And the way we do this is by using like a channel with a certain mailbox and size and everything. And that works well, except there is one case where if the mailbox is full and you were basically processing a flow job that was in some edge case, basically instead of storing, it's doing a transition where saying that you needed to reprocess the flow in a different state, then basically you would end up in a state where you would queue a job while trying to process a job. And the problem is the mailbox is full, so you cannot do that, and then you have a deadlock, and then your worker appears as dead and everything. The mailbox being full is something that is pretty rare, because we basically have the processing is very fast, so it would only appear in very rare case. So we only had a really sparse report of it, but yeah, it was a pretty cruel bug, so we found it. Second one is we did a pre-processing refactor. It's much better, and then it gave us the opportunity to also think more about how concurrency limits and tags work in the presence of a preprocessor. Before it kind of worked, but out of luck. Before the preprocessor, like the args of the preprocessor were the same one than the one from the payload. So you could have dynamic preprocessor args that were the one that you expected and could dynamically interpolate for the concurrency limit key and the tag. But once we did the preprocessing refactor, where basically instead of being at the top level, it's wrapped around an event payload with a body and something that Hugo is going to show, then that didn't make sense anymore, because the args were not top level anymore and the interpolation couldn't work. One of the things is, the reason I mentioned it was working by accident, is that if you think about it, the problem is that it kind of like assume that the jobs, even the preprocessor jobs, were going to happen on the final tag and on the final concurrency limit, when one pattern that is very powerful and that we're going to be able to allow now once we merge my feature is that the preprocessing or the preprocessor can do the routing, which means you basically have all the flows being sent to the central worker with the no concurrency limit and everything. You do some logic on the preprocessor, and then based on that logic, you will then decide on the custom concurrency key that you choose or the custom tag that you want to use. So for patterns where you need to have some logic to decide on the tag or concurrency limits, is gonna like make the preprocessor even more interesting. And if you know a bit about Cloudflare, then it's a bit the same as some of the features that they're doing, when you have some logic that can be done on flight to do some routing ahead of time, and that logic need to be lightweight like we do for preprocessors, but it allows for much more complex patterns. So in this case, it's a bit the same. You can route the job to a given worker based on some of the event payload, event metadata, and so on, which for HTTP routes include the headers and so on. For maybe Hugo, it's a good occasion to actually showcase the preprocessing refactors that actually was in the work for quite a bit of time, but is going to make things a lot more consistent and be good foundation for the future.
Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes.
So we updated the format of the preprocessor. This is the current format. This is an example for each HTTP routes. And how it worked until now was that all the body parameters would be put top level as an argument, and you would just get an extra argument called WM trigger, which would get some metadata about it. And this the original idea was to make it as similar as a normal script, but we realized that it got quite confusing for users. And that's why we rethought all of this of the preprocessor arguments and introduced a new format. So here you can see how it looks now. Instead of having the body arguments at the top level, we get a single event. And this event can be of different kinds. So for every kind of trigger, here I only selected some of them. Only 4 of them. There are the other ones as well. And what changes here is that for each kind, you will get an argument with the actual trigger information. So for webhook and HTTP route, it will be the body. For email, it's the parts email and raw email, WebSocket message, etc. And this makes it, I think, much easier to process. You can just take the event, look at the object, and then process it as you want. We didn't want to break all the scripts. I mean, we tried, so the old format still works if you use WM trigger. But we recommend everyone to switch to the new format. There's a second thing I worked on this week, which also concerns triggers and preprocessor, but specifically for HTTP routes. So until now, the logic was pretty naive, but we improved it, cached a bunch of things, and now the performance is really, really good, almost as good as webhooks. And so you can now use it for really high throughput use cases. That's all for me.
But maybe Hugo, you want
Yeah.
to share like 30 seconds about how we improved it, because I thought it was pretty interesting. It's nothing crazy, but I think it's still pretty interesting the way we're now doing the routing, right?
Yeah, for sure. So basically, until now, we every time you made a request, we would look at the routes it could be, build a router, then match your route, and then we had to fetch the creator of the route, take its authentication, and run the job. And this would require a bunch of SQL queries. And what we did is that we now construct a global router for all of the routes, refresh it every now and then when triggers are updated, but otherwise it's not built every time at each request. And we also cache the authentication, and that makes the whole process much faster.
Yeah, it's a bit like if we were doing hot reloading on a Nginx router, right? So basically it's hot and live, and the throughput you had was on a single like router server is more than 500 requests per second, I think, which is probably like more than anyone would ever need, but it's actually very cool that we're pretty confident in the ability of even HTTP routes to be able to replace like handwritten made servers. Maybe Alex, if you want to follow up. We cannot hear you. You're muted. Still muted.
All right. Now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Good. So the last week, I was working on basically finalizing updated benchmark study. Our previous benchmark study really only handled Python, so also took the opportunity to reorganize how the benchmarks page is structured. I added benchmarks for JavaScript for all the major workflow and job orchestration engines. And I also added Go, since Go doesn't require a runtime to be loaded. So in our documentation page, you can find these benchmarks in the benchmark section. Also, one other thing we added specifically for Go was the multi-worker benchmarks in comparison to other engines. So you could actually see how tasks are distributed. And the time a worker is actually working on tasks versus waiting for next task to be scheduled, and also breaking down all the individual benchmarks we've done for the different engines. So yeah, take a look and let us know what you think. Then this week I was working on finishing our Microsoft Teams integration. I think one of the remaining tasks that was not completed was the dynamic, or basically approvals, suspend approval flow in Windmill flows. So now, similar to Slack, or pretty much exactly as in Slack, if you add a suspend step, you can define a form that basically requires a user input to resume a flow. And if you run it, let me just run it now, you'll get a notification in Teams asking the user for input, and you will get one of those forms in your Microsoft Teams channel that you defined. You can enter the information. It supports like choice, so drop downs, booleans, and the other enums that we've seen before. Then if you click resume, basically we're going to send the resume payload back to Windmill and get the final result back. So here you see the flow completed, and we get the output that was passed to the form that the user was filling out. This is live for our EE clients, as the Teams integration is an EE feature. So yeah, again, please take a look and let us know if you like it. This week I was working on Git sync improvements. It's still work in progress. Actually, it's here. One of the struggles was that when you set up initially Git sync, there are a lot of settings a bit everywhere. And one of the first step to simplify things was to add the GitHub app that I was showing before, but now the goal will be to have an initialized Git repo thing that basically does an initial commit to your repo, and basically sets up the repo on both sides. So it will create the Windmill YAML file based on your settings here. There's also like a dry run function. It's still kind of building, but it will show you before applying the change, like what will happen to your repo, and then you can confirm, and it will initialize the repo. So this will make sure that what you have set here on the push side to the repo will be consistent with what your local environment settings will be if you use the CLI when you clone the repo. So this will probably be done in the next week. And yeah, that's it from my side. Diego, do you want to go next?
And also maybe I want to hijack a little bit that maybe you can see some pattern in the work that Alex is doing. It's a lot of enterprise features, and enterprise features like the Microsoft Teams one. It's not necessarily features that are very visible for our community or the open source users, but we see a lot of growth in the on our enterprise users, and so those features are actually very important for both our growth and also because they're just feature requested by our customers. We do see that growth, and we are still hiring. So if you are interested in the domain of doing complex front-end for dev tools, complex system that scale, or building AI for code and workflows, we're expanding our office in Paris. So feel free to contact us and reach out and send your resume. I'll let everyone else continue. Diego, I think you wanted to be next.
Yeah. Can you see my screen?
I think you're muted, Diego.
Oh.
No?
No, I could hear
No,
you.
we can hear you.
Okay.
Sorry.
This week and last week I worked on the S3 feature for SQL. So basically, if you had a query like that which was too big, you couldn't actually query it. So now you can go into S3 mode by using the S3 annotation, and it will stream the whole result into S3. So it will return the object key, and it will correspond to one of the file in your workspace storage. This is great if you want to use it in a flow, because it will return the key, and you can use it in a script and do whatever you want with the data by loading the data with load S3 or whatever language you're using. So yeah, you can choose the format, so you can use CSV, Parquet, and JSON. By default, it will be JSON, and you can add a prefix if you wanna add a custom folder. So yeah, that's it for the S3 feature. Next, I've been working on. Oh, by the way, yeah, the S3 feature is ready to be used on the latest release, but it's EE only. Yeah, so I've been working on DuckDB. So this is not live yet, but it's coming. Basically, you can use DuckDB, but you have access to the S3 API. So if you used the S3 feature before, you can stay inside SQL and wait, my screen is not big enough. You can stay inside SQL and do whatever you want with your data, like that. So yeah, that's it for me. Dieriba, do you have something to show?
Someone is asking if the DuckDB is a community edition or enterprise.
Haven't decided yet. I don't know. The S3 feature is definitely enterprise, but Ruben, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, DuckDB itself will be CE. I think there might be some part of it, especially the part where it is capable of like interacting with your S3 workspace. That we'll see if it's C or not. But DuckDB by itself, the language will be C. Yeah, Dieriba, I think he was on.
Yeah, I don't think we hear you, Dieriba. No. Maybe in the meantime, Diego, can you stop sharing your screen?
Dieriba, maybe, I mean, if you're gonna show the SSH mode, I can narrate it for you. I can very quickly explain it and show it. I think it's very self-explanatory. So Dieriba has been working on what we call SSH mode for workers, but it's actually, it has nothing to do with SSH. It's not using SSH, but it looks like SSH. The reason being is that sometimes when you want to debug a specific worker, and you don't necessarily have a direct SSH connection to a worker. But if you think about it, the way we execute bash script is very similar to what you usually do with SSH, which is being in a bash evaluation mode and a REPL and being in loop and get the results. So we kind of build a mini REPL that works on top of bash and is able to address a single worker and to have the interface that go along with it. So which is what Dieriba is showing. I think Dieriba, you can show a bit more that how it works. But it will look and feel a lot like SSH. One of the The thing that is a bit different is that we had to hack a little bit how CD work because jobs are happening within a job tier, so we basically prepend the path in every instruction and parse if you're doing a CD wherever it's going. I think the next, but in any case, it's going to be a very convenient feature for debugging. Sometimes you really want to understand what's happening on a worker, especially for jobs that are taking days or basically things that you want to be able to debug easily. And the cool thing about the way it works is first, it has very low impact on the workers. It's basically slow polling until you start a SSH connection, and it also is live concurrent to jobs, so it doesn't interrupt the running job, and yeah, it will make things a lot easier. If you guys have questions, we can take them. I think Dieriba, yeah, if you have something to show, but otherwise, yeah.
Yeah,
Let us know.
maybe I wanted to show the AWS Marketplace. It would be super short, but yeah, thanks to the work put up by Alex, we're now live on the AWS Marketplace. For now on the self-hosted offering, but for cloud it will come soon. And now you can just like purchase Windmill Enterprise Edition throughout the marketplace. So thanks, Alex. Yeah, that's it for me. Otherwise, yeah, as Ruben was telling, if you have questions, you can write them here. We are also monitoring the YouTube live chat. No. Yeah, questions were already asked during the live.
Yeah, great. Any questions? Otherwise, any feedback? Otherwise, I think we can wrap it up. Great. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thank you very much.
Bye. Have a good day.
Everyone.
All right.
Bye.